Welcome to the Social Business Hangout, featuring Robert Lavigne, your social business mentor. The Social Business Hangout podcast series is available on iTunes. This podcast was recorded in Brantford, Ontario, in front of a live audience.
Welcome, everybody. This is the Social Business Hangout, and it is my distinct honor to have Walter Gretzky as my guest today. Walter, introduce yourself.
I'm Walter Gretzky, Lord Mayor of Brantford, Ontario, Canada, the center of the universe. Thank you very much.
You are the Lord Mayor, and we've actually done, and you won't believe this, we've done over 98 podcasts talking about Brantford. People around the world listen to this podcast and learn about Brantford. And I'll tell you, it's been 2 years, and for 2 years I'm like, you know what? When I do the 99th podcast, there's only one person that's going to be in this chair, and that's you. So this is the 99th podcast, but I'll call it the 99.9.
That's it.
Tell me a bit about Brantford, because you, sir, are an ambassador for this great city.
Well, it's the center of the universe, as I always say. It's a wonderful city, and everybody's welcome in the city. We have everything here. We have sports, everything you can imagine for the young kids, the older, adults, everything.
What's it was like growing up in this area? Because you've seen quite a few changes in the area. You've seen it grow. Tell me a bit about growing up in the area.
Well, I remember I came from a farm, of course, and then moved to the city after in my early 20s. And I remember it was all factories, Massey Ferguson's, Coxhouse, White Farm. All that's gone now because everything moved away to China and Japan. So, but it's a little different in that respect. It's still a wonderful city.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about stuff like the Grand River and stuff like that? Because we have such beauty in this area as well.
I don't think that we advertise it enough, that beauty about the Grand River, because it is a beautiful river. It's just wonderful.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that you're known for is the house that you've lived for the better part of your life, the ice rink and stuff like that. Tell me a bit about that homestead, or the latest homestead.
Everybody thinks I made a rink in the backyard so Wayne could be a hockey player. But 40 years ago, 45 years ago, everybody used to have an outdoor rink because winters were a lot colder and it was easy to make a rink. And I used to go take Wayne to these outdoor rinks, and kids don't feel the cold till they come home and start thawing out. And I couldn't sit in the car with the car running because gas was 18 cents a gallon, for heaven's sake.
A whole 18 cents.
Yeah, I couldn't waste my money with that. And I came home one night and I said to my dear wife, Phyllis, this is so stupid. She said, what's that? I said, I go to these outdoor rinks, I freeze to death, you know what I'm going to do? She said, what's that? I'll make a rink in the backyard. He can go out when he wants, as long as he wants. I'll be in a house where it's nice and warm. It truly, truly was self-preservation. It worked out good.
At the end of the day, some of the things that we do are a bit selfish for a good reason. Now, I know that Wayne is obviously a big topic of conversation, but believe it or not, I want to talk about you. Now, we've had multiple conversations in the past. You probably don't remember them, but there's a few things that quite often come up, in those conversations. Tell me a bit about being a White Russian.
Well, if you said to my dad, are you Russian, Mr. Gretzky? He would have an absolute fit. He would say, yeah, yeah. Throw his hands up in the air, yeah, yeah. He would say, Belaruski, White Russian, because they were the ones who supported the Tsar. That's why we're here. They were the wealthy landowners. They had to flee the country because of the communists. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're here.
Now, one of the things that you quite often bring up when you bring that up is the fact that in this country there's certain things that we're capable of doing that if we were to do it elsewhere in the world, we wouldn't be able to. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, you can't. In some countries in the world, you can't walk up to a stranger and start joking and laughing. You can't do something like I always do, as you know. Mm-hmm. You get shot or stabbed or beaten to death right on the spot. It's totally different. And a lot of Canadians don't realize how lucky they are to be Canadians. They truly don't.
Now, you've been pretty much everywhere in Canada in both professional and just, being who you are. Tell me a bit about that Canadian experience.
Well, it's just so wonderful to be Canadian when you go to Europe and they find out you're a Canadian. You're a special person. Truly, no matter which country of the world it is, You go to, they say, "You're a Canadian, are you? Really, eh?" They'll say, "Really, you really are a Canadian, eh?" We're well respected all over the world.
Why is that? Why do you think? Why do you think?
I think it's the honesty, and here we're all equal in Canada. There's no such thing as first class or second class citizens. We're all first class citizens. We're all equal.
Now, one of the things that we talked about in the previous interview with a good friend of yours, Sandy, is the Lung Association, your involvement with it.
Yeah.
But more importantly, there's two events that are, associated to you. One is associated to your darling wife. Tell me a bit about the golf tournament and why that's so important.
Well, the golf tournament, we raise a lot of money, and there's a lot of togetherness there. People come not just to raise money, but just to associate with their friends and people who've had lung problems and to help those who have them right now. And that's why we have the golf tournament and the street hockey tournament. That's another wonderful thing. As you know, we're in the World Guinness Book of Records for the most teams ever in a street hockey tournament. Isn't that incredible?
It is. It is.
England.
The tournament, we've talked about this before, is actually the reason that I'm in Brantford. So in many ways, that tournament brought me here. I would have never come to Brantford had it not been for it.
See?
And I'll be honest, I don't think I will ever leave.
Really? That's wonderful to hear.
Now, going back to being who you are in the city of Brantford, you can't walk the street without people recognizing you. You can't go into the Civic Center without being swarmed. Tell me how that feels.
It's wonderful.
Is it?
And for me, it's special because twice in my life I wasn't supposed to live to see morning. So I know what it's like for someone to say hi to me and smile, and for me to be able to say hi back. I remember in 1991 when I had my aneurysm, I laid in a bed for 10 months. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who my family were. Time today for me from the early 70s to the year 2000 doesn't exist. I lost my short-term memory. But one good thing about not having a short-term memory, there is an advantage. My golf game's improved like you wouldn't believe. People say it's cheap, but I just don't remember.
One of the things that I always see when I see you in public is when you're surrounded by children. You just beam up. The kids come to you. They want an autograph. They want a picture of you, but they just want to be around you. What's it like being, idolized by so many children?
So wonderful. And one of the fascinating things is children who are 8, 9, 10 years old, to show you how smart the children of today are compared to when I was that age. They'll say, "Could I get your autograph, Mr. Gretzky?" I'll say, "Sure, what's your name?" "Billy." As soon as I start writing, they'll say, "Would you mind just signing W. Gretzky, please?" 8, 9, 10 years old, then they can say it's Wayne's autograph. That's how sharp the kids of today are. And when I hear them say that, I think, I would not have known to do that when I was that age.
What is it like being Canada's hockey dad?
Well, you're always busy. The doorbell ring. I'll say, "Can I help you, Mr. Gretzky?" We got a mother, father, son, daughter, so on. Son, who's only got a month or so to live. Can you come to the hospital with us? Maybe they'll live like you did, Kenya, and they start crying. Or, doorbell ring, "Can I help you?" "We got a golf tournament next Saturday. You got a hockey stick signed by Wayne Gretzky?" Or a photograph signed by Wayne Gretzky? Auction items to raise money. Of course, Wayne sends me things just for that, eh?
One of the things that should be in a museum but is actually in your basement is quite a few mementos. Tell me a bit about your basement.
Well, some of the things aren't there because they're in the Hockey Hall of Fame and at the Gretzky restaurant in Toronto. And we have at the arena here a few things. And the rest are at the house in the basement, just on shelves and on the floor. And of course, Mrs. Gretzky will actually be screaming. They're all over the place. Clean that mess up.
You brought up Phyllis, and I know that she had something for angels. Tell me a bit about that.
It was just one thing I've never ever figured out. She was truly obsessed with angels. She just loved them that much. When it came to Christmas time, She had angels hanging outside in the house, everywhere around our property, everywhere, all over the place. She just loved angels that much. Truly did.
Wow. The beauty of being a family man is that, yes, you're known for one son, but you've got quite a very established family.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about your children.
Well, there's our son Keith. He's the next one after Wayne. And then there's, he works for the Boston Bruins.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Glenn, who works for Wayne Gretzky Foundation. And then there's Brent, who's an OPP officer, and our daughter Kim, of course. And we had someone else who lived with us since 1988. She's gone now. She died 7 years ago. I had a mentally challenged sister who lived with my wife and me and our family. And she was like a 2 or 3 year old child mentally.
Mm-hmm.
They seldom reached 40. 3 more months, she'd been 60 when she passed away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, you spend quite a bit of your time, alone at home or whatnot.
Yeah.
Tell me how that is these days.
Well, it's kind of lonely, but I'll always go to the rinks or I'll go someplace so I don't stay at home by myself.
Well, I know one of the things that you enjoy doing is walking the golf courses, looking for golf balls and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the bags of golf balls are sitting on the porch right now, and of course if Phyllis saw them, she'd be throwing them at me.
I remember someone telling me a story about you and Phyllis, and it was something along the lines of, you were doing your typical talking, and Phyllis disappeared, and you went around going, "Where's Phyllis?" Like, "Here's 20, she went home, here's money for her cat."
That happened.
Now, one of the things that I can't believe that you are a Leafs fan. Why is that?
Always was, because of my parents. They were always Leaf fans. My mother was an absolute Leaf fan. Truly, she was obsessed with them. And of course, one of the reasons being Frank Mihalowicz of Polish descent. My mother is Polish, so she could relate to that scene.
When you think about, we brought up the family earlier, I know that, you are extremely proud of your son who's now an OPP officer. Tell me a bit about that.
Since he was 6 years old, Brent wanted to be an OPP officer. Since he was 6 years old, but of course he tried to make it in the hockey, which he did. He played in the NHL for a while, and then he retired, and then he went and applied with the OPP. But I was very surprised to find out one thing. Not only do they check him, they check the mother, father, brothers, sisters. Good thing I was away for 6 months.
It's not as if they wouldn't be able to find out who you are.
And not only that, they used to send you 500 miles away from home. Automatically, that's gone. You're stationed right at your hometown. And the reason was, guys were joining OPP, staying 2, 3, 4 years, and then quitting, going back to the local police force. So they had to stop that.
Mm-hmm. And clearly having, him nearby has got to be a great thing. And there was one thing that happened recently. We had the big unveiling of the statue.
Oh, yeah.
And you had all your family there, and your son was right there in full uniform gear as well.
Yes.
What was that day like for you?
Well, it was hard not to cry the whole time that I was there. Can you imagine? I would never have ever thought something like that would happen. Ever, ever, ever. Even when it was happening, I couldn't believe it was. Truly couldn't.
Well, I remember seeing your reaction when they displayed the fact that they named the street after you.
Oh, yeah. And, of course, my mother was of European descent. And to make a statue of a person that was unheard of.
Yes.
Because of the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not worship statues, idols, false gods. My mother she flipped out when they made a statue of Wayne in Edmonton.
Now, they've taken that statue in Edmonton and made something fairly similar here in Brantford, but they made one addition to it, and that is you, Phyllis, and a young Wayne.
As a little boy, standing there, the three of us, yeah.
What was it like? And I know that there's many aspects that you don't remember, but there's aspects you do remember. He had a fascination with number 9. Tell me a bit about that if you...
Since he was a little boy, he always wanted to wear number 9 because of Gordie Howe. He was fascinated with Gordie Howe. Always was, from the time he was little. And of course he wore number 9. Wherever he played, he wore number 9. When he got to Sault Ste. Marie, there was already a person, he was 17 years old, who already had number 9, Brian Galassi. Well, you can't take it from a player from the previous year who had 9. So he tried number 16, number 17, number 18, 19. Kept telling the coach and Nico Willis, they just don't feel right on my back. The coach, Muzz McPherson, got so mad. He said, Wayne, you want the 9 so bad? Put 2 9s on your back. Wayne says, I have enough trouble with 1 9. Never mind, I'm going to make you a sweater with 2 9s. And he made that sweater for him. Wayne was 17 years old in Sault Ste. Marie playing Junior A, and he wore it ever since. And one more thing. Wayne is not the first person to ever wear number 99. A man from the Montreal Maroons in 1931. He wore number 99. I forget his name again. I think it's Smith, but I'm not sure. Montreal Maroons, 1931. He was the actual first person to ever wear 99.
And now no one will ever wear that number ever again.
It's gone.
That's got to be pretty spectacular when you think about the accomplishments and your involvement in that. Now, one of the things that you are known for is quite a famous saying, going to where the puck's going to be, not where
it's been.
Not where it's been. Tell me the mindset behind that.
Well, I would show Wayne. I'd stand at the boards at the blue line, and I'd say, you should fire the puck along the boards, and it goes along the boards in behind the net. And then I would say, this is how everybody chases after the puck. He'd shoot it, and I'd follow it all the way around, and I'd end up behind the net, behind the puck, with the puck. Then I would say to him, this is how you should do it. You fire that puck, and he fired it along the boards, and I cut across there. I was there before the puck got there, and it came right to me. Go to where it's going to be, not where it's been.
Mm-hmm. And that's true in many ways, not just in hockey, isn't it?
It is, and everything, really.
It is very much a thing. Now, one of the things that you brought up earlier, obviously, is the aneurysm, and that affected you a lot. But one of the things that I love about that story is that your daughter, Kim, met her future husband through that. Tell me a bit about that story.
Well, I laid in a bed for 10 months because I couldn't walk. I didn't even know how to put on a pair of shoes.
Well, you were also speaking Ukrainian during that time.
I never spoke English. My dear wife Phyllis said she didn't know what she was going to do because she's a descendant of General Isaac Brock, who died at Queenstown Heights, so you know how English that is. I said, what's the big deal? You don't listen to me in English anyway. But anyways, I spoke Ukrainian for the first little while because that's the first language I ever learned.
Now, through that process of rehabilitating yourself, you know, and there's books been written about it or whatnot. Kim was with you with your.
Yeah, what happened was, after I left the hospital after 10 months, then Ian left the hospital because that's where he worked, and he stayed with me for 2.5 years. He would come every day at 8 o'clock in the morning. He would stay with me all day long until I went to bed. I didn't even know how to open a door. I didn't know shoes went on your feet. I was a zombie.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you mentioned zombie because there's a joke there as well.
The player was Joe Lamb.
Joe Lamb. The first 99?
1929.
So
Really?
So in 1929, Joe Lamb was the first person.
Okay, I said it was 1931. It was 1929.
There you go.
From the Montreal Maroons.
Now, one of the things that I love about the story of your rehabilitation and whatnot is the attitude that you got out of it. And I don't know exactly what you were like before, but I definitely know how you are now. Wayne may be the great one, but really at the end of the day, you're the grateful one, aren't you?
Well, you know what? I was always grateful before my aneurysm, but even more so after. I know what it's like. I wasn't supposed to live the night in 1991 after Dr. DeVilliers operated for 6.5 hours. I've lost my memory. I couldn't walk for a year. I just laid in a bed. I couldn't move. Didn't know who my family were. I know what it's like, and I appreciate it. I always did before, but even more so now.
And I think that's something that a lot of people that may have a lot sometimes need to lose something before they realize what they have.
They don't realize how lucky they are. They truly, truly don't.
And I think that's one of the things I love about the city, because one of the things that we've done is we've interviewed so many people in this city, and this is a hard city to make a living. Especially now. I think we have a lot more people that are aware of what they have. But sometimes when you go to Toronto, you don't get that same sense, would you?
They don't realize how lucky they are. They just take it all for granted. Just keep going. Never even think about it. That's one of the things I do. I realize how fortunate I am, because I remember standing between two bars, and all I could do was swing from side to side. I couldn't even walk. I know what it's like to walk. I know what it's like not to walk. I couldn't walk for a year.
And you're 76 now,
Yeah.
and you're still, to your point, even given everything you've through, you drive your own car, you go to your McDonald's, get your daily breakfast and whatnot, you're still very much an independent individual for your age.
Yeah.
And you travel the world.
Yeah. I have my daughter who comes in and does all the washing and all that, because I'm of European descent, which means the boys weren't allowed in the kitchen. You didn't do it. Wash clothes, you didn't iron them, you didn't pack them away. I don't know how to do any of that. Kim comes in and does all that every couple of days.
Well, I also know that whenever there's an event, we always give you a little bit of extra food to bring home as well.
Oh, there you go. See, I know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. One of the things that I want to talk a bit about as well is the Walter Gretzky Street Hockey Tournament, because it's taking place on Father's Day this year for the first time. And I think that's pretty spectacular, because we actually have a gentleman that's been coming to the event for many years. He's actually from Philadelphia. And I reached out to him this morning and I said, if you could ask Walter a question, what would it be? And it's funny, his wife is pregnant right now. And the first question that came up to mind is, could you ask Walter what advice he could give me to be the best father I could be? You have thoughts on that? What would you tell Mark? What would be some of the things that you would share for someone that is about to come to Brantford and have a child with them on Father's Day for the first time? What are some of the advice that you may pass on to someone bringing up a child this day?
Always be thankful for what you have. You don't have to have Cadillacs, cars, and Lincolns and things like that. Just be thankful for what you have. You have the child in health and happiness.
And you brought up, five beautiful kids. You're a fairly stern man when you need to be, and you're a very generous man. Where does that balance come into play? Because I know one of the quotes that Wayne is known for is that you would bring him up, but you would also bring him down. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, we're all equal. It's very important. Never make yourself think you're any better than anybody else. We're all equal. We're all special. Every one of us is special. That's the way I look at life.
Now, one of the things that may happen by the time, and I can't do my math well, actually, if I do the math well, it will happen, when the next Gretzky tournament takes place, you're going to be a great-grandfather. What does that feel like?
Wow. It's hard to imagine. Never dreamed it would ever happen. Great-grandfather. Wow.
You see, now you get to put the word great.
Great.
So, as the ambassador of Brantford, as a person that constantly speaks about Brantford, as the Lord Mayor of Brantford, what would you tell people about Brantford, and why should they come and visit Brantford?
Because it's the best city in the whole world, especially in Canada, and we have everything here. And the best thing about it is all the people are wonderful who are here, and everybody will help each other here. That's one of the good things about our city council. You go to them, they'll help everybody, no matter who you are.
Mm-hmm. And you deal with, obviously, all levels of government as well. We've got, our MP or MPPs. You've dealt with them all. Do we get the level of recognition outside of the city?
Oh, yeah. We definitely do. And as a matter of fact, Phil McColeman was the goalie when I coached him in junior hockey.
And he did a hockey night in Brantford, and he plays goal in that.
Yes.
Now, did you drop the puck for that event as well?
Yes.
Now, you get invited to a lot of puck drops. What's that feel like?
Well, just feels wonderful. It's special to do that, because not everybody gets a chance to do that. Mm-hmm. But what I notice at puck drops, when you have 4 or 5 people, and a lot of people don't understand, there'll be 5 or 6 people standing there, and the one person will have the puck and drop it. That's not the way to do it. I do it a different way. I get all 5, 6 people put their hand on the puck. We all drop it together. It's a togetherness. I always do that.
And that, I think, sums it up perfectly. Is there anything else you'd like to share with people?
No, anybody who's watching this program, if you've never been to Brantford, Ontario, please come. It's the center of the universe. It's the best city in all of Canada and the world. Thank you very much, everybody.
The Lord Mayor of Brantford, Walter Gretzky, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being on the 99.9 podcast.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Social Business Hangout. My name is Robert Lavigne, and you can reach me at socialbusinessmentor.com. The Social Business Hangout podcast series is available on iTunes. This podcast was recorded in Brantford, Ontario on November 5th, 2014. I'd like to thank my special guest, the Lord Mayor of Brantford, Walter Gretzky. Stay humble.